What if I told you that one of the most joyful, chaotic celebrations in history began as a desperate attempt to appease a fearsome god? The ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia, a week-long frenzy of feasting, gift-giving, and even role reversals between masters and slaves, might sound like pure revelry, but its roots are far darker. This was no ordinary party. It was a ritual steeped in mystery, born from the hopes and fears of a civilization trying to make sense of the world around them. And Saturnalia is just the beginning. Across the globe, ancient festivals like this one hold secrets that reveal the deepest beliefs, desires, and anxieties of early societies. What drove them to create such elaborate celebrations? How do these ancient traditions still echo in our modern holidays? In this video, we'll journey through some of history's most enigmatic festivals, uncovering the hidden meanings behind their rituals and tracing their surprising legacies into the present day. From the sacred fires of Beltane to the eerie masks of Samhain, get ready to explore the fascinating world of ancient celebrations and discover how they continue to shape the way we celebrate today. Festivals in ancient societies were far more than mere occasions for celebration. They were the lifeblood of entire civilizations. These events wove together the social, religious, and political threads of life, creating a tapestry that held communities together. Take, for instance, the Egyptian Opet festival. Held annually in Thebes, this grand event wasn't just about feasting and music. It marked the rejuvenation of the pharaoh, a living embodiment of the god Ammon, and symbolized the renewal of divine and earthly power. The festival's rituals, including the ceremonial procession of Ammon's statue from Karnak Temple to Luxor, reinforced the connection between the gods, the ruler, and the people. It was a moment when the cosmic order was reaffirmed, ensuring prosperity and stability for the kingdom. But festivals like these weren't unique to Egypt. Across the ancient world, these gatherings served as vital markers of time and purpose. They often coincided with seasonal changes, aligning human activity with the rhythms of nature. In Mesopotamia, the Akitu festival celebrated the new year and the renewal of the universe, while the Greeks honored Demeter, goddess of the harvest, during the Thesmophoria. These events weren't just about honoring the gods, they were about survival. A successful harvest, the arrival of rain, or the protection of a deity could mean the difference between abundance and famine. Beyond their practical purposes, festivals also strengthened the bonds within communities. They were moments when people came together, setting aside their daily struggles to participate in shared rituals. Whether through processions, dances, or offerings, these events fostered a sense of unity and belonging. They reminded individuals that they were part of something greater, a collective identity rooted in tradition and faith. Yet, beneath the surface of these vibrant celebrations lay something even more profound. Many of these festivals were steeped in spiritual and supernatural elements, often blurring the line between the earthly and the divine. They weren't just about honoring the gods, they were about experiencing their presence. And it's here, in this interplay between the seen and the unseen, that we begin to uncover the deeper mysteries of these ancient rituals. What forces did these festivals invoke, and how did they shape the beliefs and destinies of those who participated? The answers lie in the shadows of history waiting to be revealed. Ancient festivals were far more than mere celebrations. They were sacred bridges, connecting the mortal realm to the divine. Across cultures, these events were designed to transcend the everyday, offering participants a chance to commune with gods, spirits, or forces beyond human understanding. One of the most striking examples comes from ancient Greece, the Eleusinian Mysteries. Held annually in honor of Demeter and Persephone, these rites were among the most revered in the ancient world. Initiates traveled from far and wide, drawn by the promise of spiritual enlightenment and a glimpse into the mysteries of life and death. The ceremonies were cloaked in secrecy, with participants bound by oaths of silence. What little we know about the rituals comes from scattered hints in ancient texts and the accounts of those who dared to break their vows. One such account from the philosopher Plutarch describes the experience as a vision that transcends the limits of human understanding, a light that shines beyond the veil of mortality. For those who underwent the rites, the Eleusinian Mysteries weren't just a festival, they were a transformative journey, a moment of profound connection to the divine that left an indelible mark on their lives. But why were these rituals so powerful? It wasn't just the grandeur of the ceremonies or the reverence for the gods. It was the way they tapped into something universal, the human longing to understand what lies beyond this life. The Eleusinian Mysteries offered answers, or at least the hope of answers, to questions that have haunted humanity since the dawn of time. As the poet Pindar once wrote, "Blessed is he who has seen these things before he goes beneath the earth, for he understands the end of mortal life, and he understands its divine beginning." This connection between festivals and the divine wasn't unique to Greece. From the Vedic fire rituals of ancient India to the shamanic ceremonies of the Siberian steppes, cultures around the world used festivals to bridge the gap between the earthly and the eternal. These events were more than entertainment. They were a way to touch the sacred, to feel the presence of something greater than oneself. And yet, as deeply as these festivals were tied to the divine, they were also rooted in the world around us. The rhythms of nature, the cycles of the seasons, and the movements of the stars all played a role in shaping these ancient celebrations. But that's a story for the next part of our journey, where we'll explore how festivals were woven into the very fabric of the natural world. Long before calendars marked the passage of time, ancient societies looked to the earth and sky for guidance. Seasonal festivals were not just celebrations, they were vital markers of life's rhythm, deeply tied to agricultural cycles. Planting, growing, and harvesting these were the heartbeat of survival, and the festivals that grew from them were a way to honor the land that sustained them. Take the Celtic festival of Samhain, for example. Celebrated at the end of the harvest season, it was a time when communities gathered to prepare for the cold, dark days of winter. Imagine the crackling warmth of massive bonfires lighting up the night, their flames a symbol of protection against the encroaching darkness. Offerings of food and drink were made to the gods, a gesture of gratitude for the bounty of the harvest and a plea for survival through the harsh months ahead. Samhain wasn't just a festival, it was a bridge between life and death, a moment when the veil between worlds was believed to be at its thinnest. Over centuries, this ancient tradition evolved, weaving its way into the fabric of modern Halloween, where echoes of those old rituals still linger in our costumes and jack-o'-lantern. These festivals were more than just cultural expressions, they were a testament to humanity's intimate connection with the land. The cycles of planting and harvest dictated the rhythm of life, and every ritual, every offering was a way to acknowledge that fragile balance. But it wasn't just the earth that guided these celebrations. Above the fields and forests, the stars and planets also played their part. Celestial events like the solstices and equinoxes became sacred markers of time, inspiring festivals that honored the heavens as much as the soil beneath their feet. This interplay between earth and sky shaped the spiritual and practical lives of ancient peoples, creating a tapestry of traditions that still resonate today. As we explore these festivals, it becomes clear that they were not just about survival, they were about meaning. They were moments of collective hope, gratitude, and reverence, reminding us that even in the ancient world, humanity sought to understand its place in the vast, interconnected web of nature. Ancient civilizations were deeply attuned to the rhythms of the cosmos, and their festivals often revolved around celestial events that marked the passage of time. The solstices and equinoxes, in particular, held immense significance moments when the sun, moon, and stars seemed to align in ways that spoke to the divine. For many cultures, these astronomical occurrences weren't just scientific phenomena. They were sacred markers of renewal, power, and connection to the gods. Take the Inca Empire, for example. Their festival of Inti Raymi, celebrated during the winter solstice, was a grand tribute to Inti, the sun god. This wasn't just a party, it was a profound act of devotion. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, was seen as a turning point, a moment when the sun's power was at its weakest. By honoring Inti with elaborate rituals, dances, and offerings, the Inca believed they could ensure the sun's return and the renewal of life. The festival was held in Cusco, the heart of the empire, and involved thousands of participants, all united in their reverence for the celestial forces that governed their world. But how did ancient peoples predict these events with such precision? Enter the ancient observatory structures like the famous Machu Picchu or the Temple of the Sun in Cusco. These weren't just places of worship, they were sophisticated tools for tracking the movement of celestial bodies. The Inca, like many other cultures, used precise alignments in their architecture to mark the solstices and equinoxes. For instance, during the winter solstice, sunlight would stream through specific windows or doorways, illuminating sacred spaces in a way that seemed almost magical. These observatories were a testament to their advanced understanding of astronomy, a blend of science and spirituality that shaped their entire worldview. Yet not all ancient festivals were purely celebratory. Some carried a darker, more mysterious edge, where the line between reverence and fear blurred. While the Inti Raymi festival symbolized hope and renewal, other gatherings were steeped in rituals that tapped into the unknown rituals that we'll uncover as we delve deeper into the enigmatic origins of these ancient traditions. The idea of sacrifice is one of the most profound and unsettling aspects of ancient festivals. For many civilizations, it wasn't just an act of devotion, it was a vital mechanism to maintain the order of the universe. Take the Aztec festival of Toxcatl, for example. This ritual, dedicated to the god Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, was a time of both celebration and solemnity. At its heart was the sacrifice of a young man chosen to embody the god himself. For an entire year, this individual was treated as divine, living in luxury and honor. But at the festival's climax, he was offered to the gods in a dramatic and symbolic act. To the Aztecs, this wasn't cruelty, it was necessity. They believed that such sacrifices were essential to appease the gods and ensure the continuation of the world, the harvest, and the cycle of life itself. But why did these ancient cultures place such immense importance on sacrifice? The answer lies in their worldview. For them, the cosmos was a delicate balance of forces, constantly in need of renewal. Without offerings, whether of animals, crops, or even human lives, they feared the gods would withdraw their favor, leading to chaos, famine, or even the end of the world. In the case of Toxcatl, the sacrifice was seen as a way to renew Tezcatlipoca's power and maintain harmony between the earthly and divine realms. The rituals were steeped in symbolism with every detail, from the ceremonial attire to the timing of the event, designed to reflect this cosmic connection. From a modern perspective, these practices can feel jarring, even horrifying. Yet, it's important to approach them with an understanding of the cultural and spiritual context in which they existed. The Aztecs, like many ancient societies, saw sacrifice as a sacred duty, not an act of violence. They believed they were participating in a greater cosmic order, one that demanded both reverence and reciprocity. Still, this raises challenging moral and ethical questions. How do we reconcile the spiritual significance of these rituals with the human cost they often entailed? And what can we learn about the values and fears of these ancient civilizations through their most extreme acts of devotion? As we reflect on these questions, it's worth noting that many of these festivals were deeply tied to myths and legends. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were the foundation of cultural identity, explaining the origins of the world, the nature of the gods, and humanity's place within it all. The rituals performed during festivals like Toxcatl were often reenactments of these myths, bringing them to life in a way that connected the people to their divine narratives. This intertwining of myth and ritual reveals just how central these festivals were to the spiritual and social fabric of ancient societies. And as we'll see next, these myths often held the key to understanding the deeper meanings behind the celebrations. Long before written history, myths and legends were the lifeblood of ancient cultures, shaping their beliefs, rituals, and even their calendar. These stories weren't just tales to pass the time, they were the very foundation of some of the world's oldest festivals. Take, for example, the Babylonian Akitu festival, one of the most significant celebrations in the ancient world. This 12-day event wasn't just a party, it was a dramatic reenactment of the creation myth, a story that defined the Babylonians' understanding of the universe. At its heart was Marduk, the patron god of Babylon, who, according to legend, defeated Tiamat, the primordial goddess of chaos, bringing order to the cosmos. This myth wasn't just a story, it was a blueprint for their society, a way to explain the struggle between chaos and order, and a reminder of their god's power. During the Akitu festival, the Babylonians didn't just tell this story, they lived it. The king himself would take part in a symbolic ritual, humbling himself before Marduk and reaffirming his role as the god's representative on earth. Priests would recite ancient texts like the Enuma Elish, which chronicled Marduk's victory while the people watched in awe. These performances weren't just entertainment, they were a way to reinforce cultural identity, to remind everyone of their shared values and their place in the world. As one ancient text puts it, the gods rejoice, the people rejoice, for the order of the universe is restored. This wasn't just a festival, it was a powerful act of storytelling, a communal experience that bound the people together through shared belief. But the Akitu festival wasn't unique in this regard. Across the ancient world, myths and legends were brought to life through festivals, transforming abstract stories into tangible, lived experiences. These celebrations were more than just rituals, they were a way for people to connect with their gods, their ancestors, and each other. And as we'll see next, this connection extended even to the realm of the dead, where festivals took on a whole new dimension of meaning. Because for many ancient cultures, honoring the dead wasn't just a duty, it was a celebration of life itself. Throughout history, cultures around the world have found ways to honor those who came before them, creating festivals that celebrate the dead and keep their memory alive. One of the most striking examples comes from ancient Rome, where the Parentalia festival was held each year. For 9 days, families would gather at the tombs of their ancestors, offering food, wine, and flowers. This wasn't just a solemn occasion, it was a time of connection, a way to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. The Romans believed that their ancestors still played a role in their daily lives, guiding and protecting them from beyond the grave. These rituals weren't just about remembrance, they were about maintaining a bond that death couldn't sever. Similarly, in what is now modern-day Mexico, the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, carries echoes of this ancient tradition. Far from being a somber event, this vibrant festival is a celebration of life and memory. Families build colorful altars or ofrendas, adorned with marigolds, candles, and photographs. They prepare the favorite foods of their departed loved ones, believing that the scent and essence of the offerings will guide the spirits back to the world of the living for a brief reunion. It's a time of joy, laughter, and storytelling as people share memories of those who have passed. The festival reflects a profound belief that death is not an end but a continuation of the relationship between the living and the dead. These festivals weren't just personal or familial, they often had a deeper societal significance. In many cultures, honoring the dead was a way to reinforce community ties and cultural identity. By participating in these rituals, people acknowledged their shared history and the legacy of those who shaped their world. But there's another layer to these celebrations that often goes unnoticed: the role they played in politics and power. In some societies, festivals honoring the dead were tied to the authority of rulers or the stability of the state. Leaders would use these events to demonstrate their connection to revered ancestors, legitimizing their rule and uniting their people under a common heritage. This blend of the spiritual and the political reveals just how deeply these festivals were woven into the fabric of ancient life. Festivals have always been more than just celebrations. They've been powerful tools of influence, carefully crafted by rulers to shape public perception and solidify their hold on power. Take the Roman Ludi, for example. These grand spectacles filled with games, chariot races, and theatrical performances weren't just about entertainment. They were meticulously designed to remind the people of Rome's military might and the emperor's divine right to rule. Imagine the roar of the crowd as gladiators fought in the Colosseum, or the awe-inspiring parades showcasing spoils of war from distant conquests. These events weren't just displays of wealth and power, they were a calculated strategy to keep the masses loyal and compliant. One of the most striking examples is the Ludi Romani, a festival dedicated to Jupiter, the king of the gods. By linking their victories to divine favor, emperors like Augustus transformed these celebrations into a form of propaganda. The message was clear: the gods themselves endorsed Rome's rulers, and to challenge them was to defy the heavens. This wasn't just about entertainment, it was about control. The sheer scale of these events, with their elaborate processions and lavish feasts, left the populace in awe, reinforcing the idea that the emperor's authority was both unshakable and sacred. But the Ludi weren't the only festivals used for political gain. Across the ancient world, from Egypt to Persia, rulers hosted similar events to project their legitimacy. These festivals often served as a stage for showcasing unity, with people from all walks of life coming together to celebrate. Yet, beneath the surface, they were also a way to suppress dissent. By keeping the people entertained and distracted, rulers could maintain order and prevent rebellion. And while these festivals were undeniably spectacular, they also carried an air of mystery. Certain rituals and ceremonies were shrouded in secrecy, accessible only to the elite or the initiated. This sense of exclusivity added to their allure, making them even more effective as tools of control. But why were some aspects of these celebrations kept hidden? What role did secrecy play in maintaining the ruler's mystique? That's a question that leads us deeper into the enigmatic world of ancient festivals. Ancient celebrations often held an air of mystery, but few were as enigmatic as the Dionysian mysteries of ancient Greece. These festivals, dedicated to the god of wine, fertility, and ecstasy, Dionysus, were not open to the public. Instead, they were reserved for a select group of initiates who underwent a series of rituals designed to transform them. Imagine being part of a secret gathering where the boundaries between the mortal and the divine seemed to blur. According to ancient sources, participants would experience intense emotional and spiritual highs, often described as a direct connection to the god himself. One account from Euripides' play The Bacchae describes how the initiates would dance wildly, overcome by a divine frenzy, feeling as though they were one with nature and the cosmos. The secrecy surrounding these rituals was no accident. Initiates were sworn to silence, forbidden from revealing the details of what transpired. This exclusivity added to the allure, making the Dionysian mysteries one of the most sought-after spiritual experiences of the ancient world. The rituals themselves were said to involve symbolic acts of death and rebirth, reflecting the cycles of nature and the promise of renewal. Plutarch, the ancient historian, wrote that these ceremonies were deeply transformative, leaving participants with a profound sense of purpose and connection to the divine. But why such secrecy? Some scholars believe that these rituals were tied to the very essence of life, fertility, and rebirth. The cyclical nature of the seasons, the growth of crops, and the renewal of life were central themes in these festivals. By participating in these mysteries, initiates were not just celebrating the divine, they were aligning themselves with the forces of creation and renewal. This connection to fertility and rebirth wasn't unique to the Dionysian mysteries either. Across the ancient world, similar festivals emerged, each with its own rituals and secrets, all pointing back to humanity's deep-rooted fascination with life's beginnings and its eternal cycles. Imagine standing in the heart of ancient Rome during the Floralia, a festival bursting with color, life, and energy. This celebration, dedicated to Flora, the goddess of flowers and spring, was more than just a feast for the eyes, it was a profound acknowledgement of nature's cycles. For 6 days, the streets came alive with vibrant processions, where people adorned themselves in flower crowns and scattered petals as offerings. The air buzzed with music, dancing, and laughter, all in honor of fertility and the promise of renewal. But the Floralia wasn't unique in its focus. Across the globe, the Mayans held their chalk ceremonies, dedicated to the rain god who ensured the fertility of their crops. These rituals often took place at sacred cenotes, natural sinkholes filled with water, where offerings of flowers, food, and even precious objects were cast into the depths. The symbolism here is striking. Water, the lifeblood of the earth, was revered as a divine force that sustained both crops and communities. The Mayans believed that without chalk's blessings, the cycle of life itself would falter. What's fascinating is how these festivals, despite their cultural differences, shared a common thread. They were deeply rooted in the natural world, using symbols like flowers and water to represent growth, abundance, and the interconnectedness of life. The dances and processions weren't just performances, they were acts of reverence, a way for people to align themselves with the rhythms of the earth. Now, as we marvel at these ancient celebrations, it's hard not to notice how they often turned the ordinary upside down. Festivals weren't just about honoring the natural order, they sometimes flipped societal norms on their head. And that leads us to our next chapter, the intriguing world of role reversal festivals where hierarchies dissolved and the unexpected became the norm. Imagine a world where, for just a few days, kings became jesters, slaves ruled over masters, and the usual order of life was turned completely on its head. This wasn't just a fantasy, it was the reality of festivals like the Roman Saturnalia and the medieval Feast of Fools. These were moments when the rigid structures of society were temporarily dismantled, allowing people to step outside their everyday roles and experience a kind of freedom that was otherwise unthinkable. The Roman Saturnalia, celebrated in mid-December, was one of the most famous examples of this social inversion. Masters served their slaves, and the streets were filled with laughter, feasting, and a sense of wild abandon. It was a time when the rules were not just bent but completely broken. People exchanged gifts, wore colorful costumes, and even elected a king of Saturnalia, a mock ruler whose whims everyone had to follow. This wasn't just about fun, it was a release valve for the pressures of a highly stratified society. For a few days, the powerless could feel powerful, and the powerful could experience life from the other side. Similarly, in medieval Europe, the Feast of Fools brought a similar kind of chaos. During this festival, church hierarchies were temporarily overturned. Lower-ranking clergy would take on the roles of bishops or priests, and the usual solemnity of religious ceremonies was replaced with raucous laughter and satire. Imagine a choir singing off-key hymns or a donkey being led into a cathedral as part of the festivities. It was a time when the sacred and the profane collided, and people reveled in the absurdity of it all. But why did societies allow these disruptions? Some historians argue that these festivals served as a safety net, a way to let off steam in societies where rigid hierarchies left little room for dissent or change. By temporarily flipping the script, people could experience a taste of rebellion without actually threatening the established order. It was chaos, yes, but controlled chaos, a way to remind everyone that the rules were still there, even if they were ignored for a few days. Yet, not all festivals were about laughter and role reversals. Some were deeply tied to war and conflict, serving as a way to prepare for battle, honor the fallen, or even celebrate victories. These were moments when the stakes were much higher, and the celebrations carried a weight that went beyond mere entertainment, but more on that in just a moment. In the ancient world, victory in battle wasn't just a moment of triumph. It was a spectacle, a celebration woven into the very fabric of society. Take the Roman triumph, for instance. This grand procession was more than a parade. It was a carefully choreographed display of power and prestige. Picture this, a victorious general, adorned in laurel wreaths and purple robes, riding through the streets of Rome in a golden chariot. Behind him, soldiers marched in formation, carrying spoils of war, gold, jewels, and even captured enemy leaders. These processions weren't just about showcasing wealth. They were a way to immortalize the glory of Rome and its warriors, reminding everyone of the empire's dominance. But the Romans weren't the only ones who knew how to turn victory into a cultural event. Over in ancient Greece, the Panathenaic festival served a similar purpose, though with a unique twist. Held in honor of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, this festival combined religious devotion with military pride. One of its most iconic features was the grand procession, where a specially woven robe or peplos was carried through the streets of Athens and presented to Athena's statue. Athletes, soldiers, and citizens alike participated, creating a sense of unity and shared identity. And let's not forget the athletic competitions, races, wrestling, and chariot races, that not only celebrated physical prowess but also symbolized the strength of the city-state itself. What's fascinating about these festivals is how they transformed war into something more than just conflict. They turned it into a shared experience, a way to honor bravery and solidify national pride. Trophies displayed in public spaces, like captured weapons or shields, became lasting symbols of triumph. And then there were the sacrifices, a ritual act that connected the human and divine, offering gratitude to the gods for their favor in battle. These acts weren't just performative, they reinforced the idea that victory was a collective achievement, something to be celebrated by the entire community. But what truly brought these festivals to life was the music and dance that accompanied them. Imagine the sound of drums echoing through the streets, the rhythmic steps of dancers, and the haunting melodies of flutes and lyres. These elements weren't mere entertainment. They were integral to the storytelling, helping to elevate the atmosphere and deepen the emotional resonance of the celebration. Music and dance had a way of binding people together, turning a festival into an unforgettable experience. And as we'll explore next, these artistic expressions weren't just limited to war celebrations. They played a vital role in nearly every ancient festival, adding layers of meaning and connection that transcended time and place. Music and dance were far more than just entertainment in ancient festivals. They were the heartbeat of the rituals, pulsing with meaning and purpose. Take the Egyptian Heb-Sed, for example. This Jubilee festival, held to renew the pharaoh's strength and divine connection, was a spectacle of rhythm and movement. Drummers pounded out hypnotic beats, their hands moving in perfect unison, while dancers swirled in intricate patterns, their bodies adorned with shimmering gold and vibrant linens. The music wasn't just sound, it was a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a way to channel energy and invoke the gods' favor. In India, the festival of Holi took a different but equally mesmerizing approach. Here, dance became a celebration of life itself, a joyous rebellion against the mundane. Dancers, their faces and garments splashed with brilliant colors, moved to the rhythms of D-hol drums and the melodies of flutes. The choreography wasn't rigid or rehearsed, it was spontaneous, a collective expression of unity and freedom. The music and movement worked together to dissolve boundaries, bringing people closer to each other and to the sacred forces they honored. These performances weren't just for show, they served a deeper purpose to create a sense of transcendence. The repetitive rhythms of drums, the swirling patterns of dance, these elements had a hypnotic effect, pulling participants into a shared trance-like state. In this space, individual worries melted away, replaced by a powerful feeling of connection to the community and the cosmos. It was a way to step outside of ordinary life, even if just for a moment, and touch something greater. The instruments themselves held symbolic weight. In the Hebsed, the sistrum, a sacred rattle, was believed to ward off evil spirits with its jingling sound. In Holi, the D-hol's deep, resonant tones were thought to awaken the spirit of spring, driving away the cold and darkness of winter. Costumes, too, played a role, with their colors and designs often representing deities, seasons, or cosmic forces. Every detail, from the beat of a drum to the swirl of a dancer's skirt, was infused with meaning, but these festivals weren't just about celebration. Many were deeply tied to healing and purification. The rhythms and movements weren't just for joy, they were tools to cleanse the body and spirit, to restore balance and harmony. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how ancient cultures used festivals not just to connect with the divine, but to heal and renew themselves, creating rituals that resonated with the very essence of life. But while some ancient festivals were about honoring the gods or marking the seasons, others had a deeply personal purpose: healing and purification. These were moments when communities came together to cleanse not just their bodies but their spirits as well. Take, for example, the Greek Asclepiad, a festival dedicated to Asclepius, the god of medicine. At its heart, this was a celebration of renewal, where people sought to cure ailments of both the flesh and the soul. Pilgrims would travel to sacred sanctuaries, often near natural springs, believing the waters held divine healing powers. They would bathe, offer prayers, and sometimes even sleep in the temple, hoping to receive a vision or dream from Asclepius himself, a sign of their impending recovery. Water wasn't the only element at play in these purification rituals. Fire, too, played a central role in many cultures. The Roman Lupercalia, for instance, was a festival of fertility and purification held in mid-February. It began with the sacrifice of goats and a dog, followed by priests smearing themselves with the animal's blood, a symbolic act of cleansing. Then, clad in nothing but strips of goat hide, they would run through the streets, gently striking bystanders with leather thongs. Far from being seen as violent, this was believed to purify women and ensure fertility. The festival was raw, visceral, and deeply tied to the idea of renewal, both physical and spiritual. Historical accounts of these rituals paint a vivid picture of their significance. The Greek historian Pausanias described the Asclepiad as a place where the sick come to be healed and the weary come to be restored. Similarly, Roman writers like Ovid documented the Lupercalia as a time when the city itself seemed to shake off its winter lethargy, embracing the promise of spring and new beginnings. These festivals weren't just about individual healing, they were communal acts of renewal, weaving together the personal and the collective in a tapestry of faith and tradition. And speaking of renewal, there's another kind of ancient festival that took a different approach to rejuvenation, one that celebrated love, connection, and the bonds between people. But that's a story for the next chapter, where we'll explore how ancient cultures turned affection into art and romance into ritual. Ancient cultures had a profound way of celebrating love and romance, weaving rituals and traditions into their festivals that still resonate with us today. Take the Roman festival of Lupercalia, for instance. Held in mid-February, it was far from the modern Valentine's Day we know, but it was deeply rooted in themes of fertility and partnership. Picture this: young men clad in goat skins running through the streets, playfully striking women with strips of goat hide. While it might sound bizarre to us now, this act was believed to promote fertility and ensure healthy relationships. It was a celebration of life, love, and the bonds that held communities together. Then there's the Cixi festival from ancient China, often called the Chinese Valentine's Day. This festival, celebrated on the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, was inspired by the tragic yet romantic legend of the cowherd and the weaver girl. Separated by the Milky Way, these star-crossed lovers were said to reunite just once a year, when magpies formed a bridge across the heavens. On this day, young women would pray for skillful hands in weaving, a metaphor for finding a skilled and loving partner, while couples exchanged tokens of affection and recited poetry. Flowers, especially the lotus, played a central role, symbolizing purity and devotion. The symbolism in these festivals is striking. Flowers weren't just decorative, they carried deep meanings. In Lupercalia, the color red, later associated with Valentine's Day, was already a symbol of vitality and passion. In Cixi, the lotus flower represented the enduring nature of love, even in the face of adversity. Poetry, too, was a universal language of romance, with verses capturing the hopes and heartaches of lovers across cultures. But these festivals weren't just about the living. Some ancient celebrations bridged the gap between the world of the living and the realm of the dead, intertwining love with themes of the afterlife. In many traditions, love was seen as eternal, transcending even death. This idea sets the stage for festivals that honored not just the bonds of the living, but also the connections between the living and the departed, a theme we'll explore next. Across cultures and centuries, the relationship between the living and the dead has been a source of fascination, fear, and reverence. Ancient societies often held festivals to honor the spirits of the departed, believing that the boundary between worlds grew thin at certain times of the year. One of the most striking examples comes from ancient Greece with the Anthesteria festival. Held in late winter, this 3-day celebration was dedicated to Dionysus, the god of wine, but it also had a profound connection to the dead. During the festival, it was believed that the spirits of the deceased would rise from the underworld and walk among the living. Families would prepare meals for their ancestors, offering food and wine to appease these restless souls. Yet, it wasn't all solemn. There were also drinking contests and feasts, blending celebration with remembrance in a way that felt both joyous and haunting. On the other side of the world, the Japanese Obon festival carried a similar theme, but with its own unique traditions. Celebrated in midsummer, Obon is a time when families believe their ancestors' spirits return to visit the living. Lanterns are lit to guide the spirits home, and offerings of food are placed at altars. Bon Odori dances are performed, their rhythmic movements symbolizing the connection between this world and the next. The festival ends with floating lanterns being released on rivers or into the sea, a beautiful and poignant way to bid farewell to the spirits as they return to the afterlife. These rituals weren't just about honoring the dead, they were also a way for the living to process grief, celebrate life, and reaffirm their bonds with those who came before them. What's fascinating is how these festivals often served a dual purpose. They weren't just about the dead, they also marked the passage of time. The Anthesteria coincided with the first signs of spring, while Obon aligned with the peak of summer. In this way, honoring the dead became intertwined with the cycles of nature, reminding communities of the ever-turning wheel of life and death. these festivals weren't just rituals, they were anchors in time, helping people understand their place in the grander scheme of existence. And as we'll see, this connection between festivals and the passage of time extends far beyond the realm of the dead, shaping how ancient cultures measured and celebrated their world. Long before the invention of modern calendars, ancient festivals played a crucial role in marking the passage of time. These celebrations weren't just about feasting and rituals. They were sophisticated tools that helped societies navigate the rhythms of the natural world. Take, for instance, the Mayan civilization, whose long count calendar was a marvel of precision and ingenuity. This calendar didn't just track days or months, it mapped out vast cycles of time spanning thousands of years. Festivals tied to this system weren't merely social gatherings. They were moments of cosmic significance, aligning with celestial events like solstices, equinoxes, and even the rare movements of planets. The Mayans believed these alignments held immense power, shaping everything from agriculture to warfare. For example, the festival of Wayeb, which marked the final 5 days of the Mayan solar year, was a time of reflection and preparation. It was believed that during this period, the boundaries between the human and spiritual worlds blurred, making it a critical moment for rituals that ensured balance and prosperity in the year ahead. These festivals weren't just about the present, they were about predicting and influencing the future. By observing the stars and aligning their celebrations with celestial patterns, the Mayans created a living calendar that connected their daily lives to the vast, mysterious workings of the universe. But the Mayans weren't alone in this practice. Many ancient cultures used festivals as markers of time, deeply intertwined with the natural world. From the Egyptians' Wepet Renpit, or opening of the year, which heralded the annual flooding of the Nile, to the Celtic Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, these events were more than just traditions. They were essential tools for survival. They helped communities anticipate changes in weather, plan agricultural activities, and even prepare for potential hardships. This connection between festivals and the natural world reveals something profound about our ancestors' understanding of time. For them, it wasn't a linear, abstract concept, it was a living, breathing force, shaped by the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars. These festivals weren't just celebrations, they were acts of harmony, a way to align human life with the rhythms of the cosmos. And as we explore these ancient traditions, we begin to see how deeply rooted our own relationship with time is in the natural world, a connection that continues to shape the way we live even today. The natural world has always been a source of wonder and inspiration, and ancient festivals were no exception. Imagine standing under a canopy of cherry blossoms in ancient Japan, their delicate pink petals fluttering in the breeze as the air fills with the sound of laughter and music. This is the essence of the Japanese Cherry Blossom Festival, or Hanami, a centuries-old tradition that celebrates the fleeting beauty of nature. The cherry blossom, or sakura, symbolizes the transient nature of life itself, a reminder to cherish each moment. Families and friends gather beneath the trees, sharing food, poetry, and stories, all while honoring the profound connection between humanity and the natural world. But the reverence for nature wasn't limited to Japan. In the frosty landscapes of the Norse world, the Yule festival brought warmth and light during the darkest days of winter. Yule, which later influenced many modern Christmas traditions, was a time to honor the evergreen trees that defied the harsh cold. The Norse believed these trees held the spirit of life even in the dead of winter. They would bring evergreen boughs into their homes, decorating them with offerings to the gods and lighting fires to symbolize the return of the sun. Animals, too, played a central role in these celebrations, with sacred creatures like the wild boar and the goat embodying strength and fertility. These festivals weren't just about celebration, they were deeply symbolic. Trees, flowers, and animals weren't just decorations or themes, they were seen as living connections to the divine. In Hanami, the cherry blossom's brief bloom mirrored the fragility of human existence, while the evergreen trees of Yule stood as enduring symbols of resilience and renewal. These rituals remind us that our ancestors saw themselves as part of a larger, interconnected web of life, not separate from it. As we marvel at these ancient traditions, it's hard not to wonder how they've shaped our modern world. But like all things, these festivals didn't remain unchanged. Over time, as societies evolved, so too did their celebrations. Some festivals faded into obscurity, while others transformed, blending with new beliefs and customs. What happened to these ancient traditions as the world around them shifted? That's a story for the next part of our journey, where we'll explore the decline and transformation of these once vibrant festivals. As empires rose and fell and new beliefs took root, many ancient festivals began to fade or transform, their origins often buried under layers of time and cultural change. Take, for instance, the vibrant Roman festival of Saturnalia, a week-long celebration of feasting, gift-giving, and role reversals that honored Saturn, the god of agriculture. Over time, as Christianity spread across the Roman Empire, Saturnalia's themes of light, renewal, and generosity were absorbed into the celebration of Christmas. The date of December 25th, once marking the winter solstice and the rebirth of the sun, became associated with the birth of Christ. This blending of traditions wasn't just a coincidence, it was a deliberate effort to ease the transition from pagan practices to Christian worship, ensuring that the new faith felt familiar and accessible to the masses. But Saturnalia isn't the only example. The Celtic festival of Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, was deeply rooted in beliefs about the thinning veil between the living and the dead. When Christianity reached the British Isles, Samhain evolved into All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, eventually giving rise to the modern celebration of Halloween. What began as a sacred time to honor ancestors and ward off spirits became a night of costumes, candy, and playful spookiness. Yet, even today, echoes of Samhain linger in traditions like carving pumpkins and lighting candles to guide lost souls. Politics, too, played a role in reshaping ancient festivals. The Persian New Year, Nowruz, has survived for over 3,000 years, but its observance has shifted with the tides of history. Under Islamic rule, the festival adapted to coexist with new religious norms, while in modern times it has become a symbol of cultural identity and resistance for communities facing political upheaval. Nowruz's endurance is a testament to its deep roots in human connection, renewal, and resilience. These transformations remind us that festivals are not static. They are living traditions that reflect the hopes, fears, and values of the societies that celebrate them. While some ancient festivals have faded into obscurity, others have left an indelible mark. Their echoes still felt in the way we celebrate today. And as we'll see next, these legacies are more than just historical footnotes. They are windows into the enduring power of human connection and the stories we tell to make sense of the world. Ancient festivals have left an indelible mark on the way we celebrate today, weaving their traditions into the very fabric of modern life. Take Halloween, for instance, a holiday that lights up our October nights with costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, and tales of the supernatural. But did you know its origins trace back to the Celtic festival of Samhain? Celebrated over 2,000 years ago, Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, a time when the boundary between the living and the dead was believed to blur. People lit bonfires and donned disguises to ward off restless spirits, a practice that has evolved into the spooky festivities we know and love today. Similarly, Christmas, with its merry gatherings and gift-giving, has roots that stretch back to the Roman festival of Saturnalia. Held in mid-December, Saturnalia was a time of feasting, role reversals, and the exchange of small gifts. The Romans honored Saturn, the god of agriculture, by decorating their homes with greenery and lighting candles, traditions that echo in the wreaths and twinkling lights of modern Christmas celebrations. Over time, these ancient customs were absorbed and reshaped by Christian traditions, creating the holiday we recognize today. But it's not just Halloween and Christmas that carry these ancient echoes. Many of the rituals we practice now have been reinterpreted over centuries, blending old beliefs with new meanings. For example, the Maypole dance, once a fertility ritual tied to the Germanic festival of Beltane, now graces springtime celebrations as a symbol of community and joy. Even the act of blowing out birthday candles can be traced back to ancient Greece, where people offered lit candles to Artemis, the goddess of the moon, as a form of prayer and celebration. What's fascinating is how these ancient traditions have been adapted to fit the needs and values of different cultures and eras. They've been reshaped, reimagined, and sometimes even commercialized, yet their core essence remains. These festivals remind us of our shared human history, connecting us to the past in ways we might not even realize. And while we've inherited these traditions, they still hold an air of mystery. Why did our ancestors celebrate in these specific ways? What deeper meanings lie beneath the surface? These questions linger, inviting us to explore the enduring enigma of ancient festivals and their lasting influence on our lives. But even with all the discoveries we've made, there's so much about ancient festivals that remains shrouded in mystery. Take Stonehenge, for example. This iconic stone circle has puzzled researchers for centuries. Was it a temple for sun worship, a burial ground, or perhaps a massive calendar designed to track celestial events? The truth is, we still don't know for sure. Archaeologists continue to uncover clues like the recent discovery of ancient cremated remains, but the purpose of Stonehenge remains one of history's greatest enigmas. Then there are the Eleusinian Mysteries, a series of secretive rituals held in ancient Greece. These ceremonies were so closely guarded that even today, we know almost nothing about what actually took place. Participants were sworn to secrecy, and no written records were kept. Some historians believe the rituals involved hallucinogenic substances, while others think they were deeply symbolic rites of passage. As one expert put it, the Eleusinian Mysteries are like a locked door, and we're still searching for the key. These unanswered questions highlight the challenges of interpreting ancient rituals. Without written records or clear evidence, historians and archaeologists often have to piece together fragments of the past, and sometimes those fragments raise more questions than answers. For instance, why did so many ancient cultures build massive structures like Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt? Were these monuments purely religious, or did they serve other, more practical purposes? Despite the mysteries, these ancient festivals offer something valuable for us today. They remind us of humanity's enduring curiosity and our desire to connect with something greater than ourselves. They also teach us about the power of community and shared experiences, ideas that are just as relevant now as they were thousands of years ago. So while we may never fully understand the secrets of Stonehenge or the Eleusinian Mysteries, their legacy continues to inspire and intrigue us, urging us to keep exploring the unknown. Ancient festivals weren't just about grand celebrations or mysterious rituals. They were profound expressions of what it means to be human. They remind us that, even thousands of years ago, people sought connection to each other, to the world around them, and to something greater than themselves. These gatherings weren't just parties, they were threads that wove communities together, binding them in shared purpose and meaning. And isn't that something we could use more of today? Take the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia, for example. During this week-long celebration, social norms were turned upside down. masters served their slaves, gifts were exchanged, and the entire community came together in a spirit of equality and joy. It wasn't just about indulgence, it was a powerful reminder of the importance of unity and humility. Fast forward to today, and we see echoes of this in modern holidays like Christmas or even office Secret Santa exchanges. These traditions, rooted in ancient rituals, still carry that same spirit of giving and togetherness. But it's not just about community. Ancient festivals also highlight our deep connection to the natural world. The Celtic festival of Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, was a time to honor the cycles of life and death. It wasn't just about fearing the dark, it was about understanding our place within the rhythms of nature. Today, we see this reflected in practices like eco-friendly celebrations or even the growing popularity of seasonal mindfulness retreats. These modern adaptations remind us to pause, reflect, and reconnect with the world around us. And then there's the spiritual dimension. Festivals like the Eleusinian Mysteries in ancient Greece were deeply personal, offering participants a chance to explore profound questions about life, death, and the divine. These weren't just public spectacles, they were transformative experiences that left a lasting impact. In a world where many of us feel disconnected or adrift, these ancient practices remind us of the power of ritual to ground us, to give us a sense of purpose and belonging. So, what can we take from these ancient traditions? Perhaps it's the reminder that celebration isn't frivolous, it's essential. It's a way to mark the passage of time, to honor our relationships, and to reconnect with what truly matters. Whether it's through a modern festival, a personal ritual, or simply taking a moment to appreciate the world around us, these ancient lessons are still deeply relevant. But what does all of this mean for us today? How can we bring these timeless ideas into our own lives? That's what we'll explore next as we wrap up with the key takeaways from this journey through the mysteries of ancient festivals. As we wrap up this journey through the mysteries of ancient festivals, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe at how these traditions have shaped humanity. From the solstice celebrations of Stonehenge to the vibrant rituals of the Dionysia in ancient Greece, we've explored how these festivals were far more than mere gatherings. They were profound expressions of our ancestors' connection to the cosmos, the divine, and one another. What's truly remarkable is how these ancient practices reflect something universal within us. Whether it was honoring the cycles of nature, seeking favor from the gods, or simply coming together as a community, these festivals reveal a timeless truth. The human desire to find meaning and belonging is as old as civilization itself. They remind us that, despite the vast differences in time and culture, we're all driven by the same fundamental needs: to understand the world, to connect with something greater, and to celebrate life in all its complexity. As the Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." In many ways, these ancient festivals are like that river, ever-changing, yet always flowing with the same timeless currents of hope, reverence, and wonder. They invite us to pause and consider how the past continues to shape our present, and how these ancient mysteries still hold lessons for us today. So, what do you think? How do these ancient traditions resonate with you? Do they spark a curiosity to learn more about the cultures that created them? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue this conversation. And if you've enjoyed diving into the mysteries of the past with me, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. There are so many more historical enigmas to uncover, and I can't wait to explore them with you. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, the past is never as distant as it seems.